Hi. I want to talk to you about equality, and in particular I want to talk to you about gender equality. Now, men don't often talk about gender equality, and when we do, we tend to stand in one of two places. We stand either in the place of pro-feminism, or we stand in the place of anti-feminism, and I stand in neither. I stand in two places of my own. I stand in the place of optimism, and I stand in the place of activism. I'm an optimist because I genuinely believe that together we can create a world where every man and every woman and every girl and every boy can flourish and fulfill their greatest potential in a way that really works for everyone. And I'm an activist because I'm really interested in how we can utilize gender as a way and an opportunity to work with people to fulfill their potential in areas of life that are important to them. And that's why I work with men and boys. Now, when I was a boy, nothing was more important to me than beating my mates at Top Trumps. Top Trumps is a card game. It's got these different themes. It's themes like, in my day, it was like dinosaurs and fast cars and footballers. I loved the footballers. And you'd have these cards with footballers on, and each footballer would have a measure, like how old they were, what their height was, how many goals they'd scored, how many games they'd played. And you'd deal all the cards out, and you'd sit there with your card, wondering how you were going to beat the other players. And if it was your go, you had to pick the measure that would beat the other players. And you might have the worst card in the pack. You might have a 19-year-old who played half a game, scored no goals, right? And over here, the boy's going, I hope he picks goals because my player's got 100 goals. And over here, the girl's going, I hope he picks games because my player's played 500 games. And you go, height. And the guy over here goes, 5'7". And the girl over here goes, 5'11". And you go, 6'2", the winner. And you win all the cards. Now, the reason I mention that game is because we kind of do equalities like that. If you run a country or you run a city, what you do is you want to know how your residents are doing. And you measure them in different ways, like we measure the people on top trump cards. And you look out at the different communities in your city to find out how they're doing. And what's really great about equalities is if you find out, for example, that your black and minority ethnic community is doing worse in education, is doing worse in terms of health, is doing worse in terms of being involved in crime, is doing worse in terms of employment, you don't go, look at them, why are they doing so bad? You actually go, what is it? Look at us. What are we doing as a city that this community shows up that way? What are we, and what can we do differently? What are the barriers they face to good education? What are the barriers they face to good health? How can we change what we do to make a difference for that community? Now, in the world of gender equality, it's a bit different. Let me give you an example. We have like a global league table of gender equality created by the World Economic Forum. It's kind of like an international game of top trumps, country versus country. And there are 4 measures. And the measures are wealth and power, and health and education. And as you would imagine, there's different levels of equality all over the world between different countries, right? But there's a theme. There are themes that you can see are consistent around these different countries. So in the world of when you measure wealth and when you measure power, in all of those countries, by most of those measures, men tend to come out on top. But also all over the world, when you measure health, for example, by life expectancy, you find that women tend to come on top. And increasingly, when you look at education, of these 140 countries that have been measured, there are more countries where women and girls are doing better in the world of education. There are countries where boys and men are doing better. So that's quite an interesting idea, to see that we're playing top trumps with gender equality in this way. But the way we play the game of gender equality, top trumps, has some quirks. So firstly, it's about the quantity of equality, not the quality of equality, by which I mean like a country like Lesotho in Africa, where the quality of their equality is right down here in terms of what the men and women earn and how healthy and how long they live, compared to, say, the UK. But they come in the top 10 because men and women are more level. And here in the UK, where we earn much more and we live much longer, We come about 16th or 17th because the gap between men and women is bigger. And then there's another quirk of how we measure gender equality, and this is the one I really want to share with you. And this is the one I really want to transform. It goes like this. When we look at the tables and women show up as unequal, we go, boo, let's do something about it. When we look at the tables and we see in a country men and women are equal on a measure, we go, yay, gender equality. Then we get over here. When we see a measure where men are doing worse than women, we go, yay, more equality for women. You score more points for having women doing better than men. So my radical idea is this. In the world of gender equality, how about if it went like this, right? So when women aren't doing so well, we go, boo, let's see what we can do about it. When it's about equal, we go, yay, that's quite good. And when, this is the radical bit, right? Bear with me. When men aren't doing as well, we don't go, yay! We go, boo, what can we do about it? So if we take that out into the real world, what would that look like if we actually were focused on gender equality where it wasn't like them versus us and us versus them, but it was kind of like us, all of us, men and women versus inequality? How different might that be? How different might that be if we had people measuring how men and boys were doing in our cities and then looking out into the city, and rather than saying, why don't they look after their health? Why do they do so bad at school? Why are they committing so much crime? We actually said, what are we doing as a city that has men and boys show up in that way, and what can we do differently? Now, I'm not against focusing on women and equality. I think it's really important. I think there's so much more work to do, but I'm going to make the case for focusing more on men and inequality. So let me just give you some figures from the UK. So from the point when a boy is born, he's more likely to die before the age of 1. He's more likely to be rejected by or removed from his family. 25% more likely to be taken into care, 25% less likely to get out of care by being adopted. At school, he's twice as likely to have a special educational need. At school, he's twice as likely to have literacy problems. He's 4 times more likely to be excluded from school. By the time he reaches 16, he's more likely to be in youth employment. He is more likely to die, 2.5 times more likely to die by the age of 25. Is less likely to be a graduate. And if he is, guess what? 50% more likely to be unemployed when he comes out of university. Sorry, guys, but that's the way it is. What else? 3 times as likely to commit suicide. Twice as likely to be the victim of violent crime. More likely to be killed by a stranger or killed by someone you know, making up 71% of murder victims. 4 times as likely to be an alcoholic. 3 times as likely to be addicted to cannabis. And worst of all for me, 95% of the prison population are men. Now that's not just male behaviour, because if it was, every single class would be in prison. If you look at the prison population today, 27% of those men were in care. 20 to 30% of those men have learning difficulties. 50% of those men are addicted. 60 to 70% of those men grew up fatherless without a male role model. 90% of young offenders were excluded from school, and 90% of men in prison have some kind of mental health problem. I'll leave you with my vision, my optimism, that actually we can create a world where every man and every woman can fulfill their greatest potential and flourish. And let me give you a quick story. We had a young woman turn up to volunteer with a project I was working on with men and boys, and we couldn't quite work out what it was she wanted. We'd really tried to help her find a role for herself to help her flourish and reach her full potential through volunteering. We just didn't do it. We felt like we'd failed her. And after 2 or 3 months of hanging around, she just disappeared. And then she phoned me up one day, about 6 months later, and she said, I want to apologise. I want to apologise to you, because I was a bit weird when I was hanging around your project. And the thing is, 18 months ago, I was walking home through the streets of our city, and I got raped. And I saw my future was that I could be bitter towards all men from that point on. And I didn't want to be. I wanted to find out the kind of problems that men have and get over what happened to me. And through you, I saw the kind of problems and challenges that men face. And through you, I got to be around some really great men. And now I'm looking forward to a future where I can have great relationships with men. We didn't even realize it. We were helping a young woman to flourish and fulfill her greatest potential. That's what I stand for. Equality, gender equality, where together men and women are fighting for a more equal world.